air quality index is varying from 130 to 150. Now NGT has also come up with a recent verdict where new standards should be matched as a mandatory thing for all the cities and for specific towns. That has to be implemented in diesel generators and all exhaust as well. This has paved a way for diesel generators to be retrofitted with air pollution and control measures. In this context, I'm delighted to be with you virtually today to discuss the topic how to move forward on zero emissions for services and industrial sectors. Currently, in this industry-driven environment, we have been continuously neglecting the nature-oriented environment. Altering the patterns of production and consumption is essential to reverse environmental degradation and combat climate change. That well being said, I would like to introduce all the panel members of today. Ms. Ramya Bharatram, she is the Executive Director and Chief Financial Officer of Thirumalai Chemicals, as we all know. She's presiding over strategy and business in this company for almost 20 years. She has been in this business, and she has worked with the top law firms and Deloitte consulting firms like Deloitte as well. I would like to introduce Dr. S. Mohan to the committee now. As everyone knows, he's the chairman of State Expert Appraisal Committee of the SIA, which issues the environmental clearance, and he's he's an independent director of TIDCO as well. He has published over 250 articles, and he has been he's with IIT Madras since 1987. And he's the professor of environmental and water resource engineering there. Following Dr. Mohan, I would like to introduce Dr. J.R. Moses. With the 20 years of expertise in environmental engineering, he heads Hubert EnviroCare Systems, which delivers turnkey supplies analytical services and operation maintenance consulting services in environment. Mr. Moses started his company in 1997, and it was renamed as Hubert EnviroCare Systems post collaboration with Hubert Staveren, Holland. Now I'd like to introduce Dr. V.D. Murthy, who is the current chairman of Indian Chemical Council of Southern Region. He's well-known in the chemical industry. He has worked with Aditya Birla Group for more than 50 years, and he was also chairman of TANFAC. I would like to introduce Mr. S. Venkatraghavan. He is the strategic expert in Thirumalai Chemicals and is the president of Thirumalai Chemicals. He has experience of 30 years in chemical industries with various business and leading roles. Prior to joining Thirumalai Chemicals, he worked with Cabot Corporation. I would like to introduce Mr. Jonathan Staker, who is the MD and CEO of Catalytic Exhaust Limited, Toronto, Canada, and his technical manager of Indian head, Mr. Satish Kumar. Though many companies neglect the sustainable growth, there are certain missionaries and companies that mitigate this negative impacts on the environment. So one of the companies, Catalytic Exhaust Limited. That being said, I would like to invite Ms. Ramya Bharatram to give an inaugural note. Ms. Ramya Bharatram.
Thank you, Christoph. I was just, I keep forgetting that I have to unmute myself. Thank you so much for the introduction and a very warm welcome to everybody. And this is a very topical subject at this point of time. India has a huge opportunity today because of the changing environment around the world. A huge opportunity for renewed industrialization, and a lot of new investment and investors are coming in, looking at India as a destination for putting up these investments. We have had over the last few months quite a lot of interest from various industries to come in and invest here, and Tamil Nadu especially has been doing a lot of work on inviting these investors. I think what we need to do at this point of time is setting up these industries responsibly. Industries have to put in a lot of effort in ensuring that uh, uh, the environmental conditions that the government has set up uh, have to be necessarily followed when they plan the industry itself. Government, of course, has to. We've been talking to the government in various forums to set up planned industry parks where it is possible to share infrastructure and set up something similar to a circular economy. Now, resources are very scarce. We know that water, fossil fuel, all of these are becoming very precious, and the environment also is becoming very sensitive to industrialization. I think it is the responsibility of the industry to put in the effort required to reduce emissions at the design stage itself. A lot of new technologies are coming up to address not only pollution control, but also cleaner production methods and processes. We will hear, of course, we'll hear about it from all of these other speakers. Many industries are being now started to address a lot of these environmental concerns of the industry, as well as even other equipment and processes that are being designed. There is a lot of thought being put into how to make it much more environmental friendly and work towards zero emissions. There are a lot of examples in other countries where some of the countries we can see are setting up eco towns, eco townships. These are available for us to emulate and take examples from. These environmentally friendly towns have been created by partnerships between the government as well as private industry and are promoted as a basis for regional development. So certain specific areas are taken for development, and these environmentally friendly towns are designed at the planning stage itself to be eco parks and eco townships. Japan has done this fairly successfully with the Kawasaki Eco Park and a couple of others also. Other countries like China and Malaysia are also looking at trying these designs out. This kind of setting up of these eco parks and working towards environmentally friendly industry requires a complete change in the thought process of the industry players itself. Just as a lot of thought goes into location, into engineering, into logistics, into market, and all of these other aspects when we put up new industry, I think environment and net zero have to be a part of the planning process itself. There are a lot of industries, existing industries, that also need to work on moving towards zero emissions. In India, a couple of months back, we heard that Indian Railways has announced that they will be moving towards net zero emissions by 2030. Similarly, in order to work towards this commitments to zero emissions, industry clusters have to voluntarily work on methods to go towards zero emissions. This, of course, I'm sure having once established industry, put in a lot of thought in the design and planning, it will take a lot of time and effort to change some of the processes and the practices in order to move towards net zero. But in this effort, a lot of support is needed from the government to guide industries and move towards zero emissions in a very planned manner. Policing is required from the government, but positive support is also needed. I think guidance, I know, has come up, has put in a lot of effort and a lot of planning into helping out industry with various different areas. I think this net zero has to be, or zero emissions, working towards this, a planned effort towards this has to be made by a similar organization, not necessarily guidance itself, but a similar organization which works with the industry as a representative of the government, works with the industry in helping them, introducing them to other players who have done it successfully, and in also helping industry to work towards zero emissions. India as a country, we have been working on pollution control methods for many decades now, 3+ decades since the law itself was put into force. But even after all this effort, many industries have continued to pollute, and we also see that the increasing use of vehicular pollution, like Christo mentioned, has become a huge issue for a lot of large cities and large areas to control pollution. This has resulted in communities and government looking at any new industry with a lot of doubt and suspicion. So in order to address this at the time of investing itself, I think communities should be educated on what measures the industry is taking to move towards zero emission. I think it is a big thing that industries can promote. Zero discharge, zero emissions, net zero. All of these are initiatives that industries can use to educate the community and tell them how the waste products are managed, for example, or how they are, or how some of the waste products are used and converted into wealth, into newer products that can be used by everybody else. Energy use, I think, is becoming a huge issue, and fossil fuel based energy is now becoming a serious availability of fossil fuel is becoming a serious issue around the world. I think working towards and moving towards energy efficiency and making sure that industries that are new industries that are set up are much more energy efficient in order to run is also an important aspect. This will become much easier if industry parks, newer industry parks that are now being planned and to be set up, are set up as clusters in order to take advantage of using the waste from one and using it as a raw material in the other, and reducing the impact on the environment. Today, there is a lot of attention that is being focused on the environment, which is a very good thing. I think it is needed at this stage itself, when India is moving into a fresh phase of industrialization, if I may say so, where there is a lot of opportunity for new industries to come in, where the entire world is focusing on changing its supply chain aspect, and India is one of the target countries which is being looked at for supply of a lot of materials. I think the idea should be for the industry and government to work together. I think industry has a lot of a huge role to play on figuring out how they can reduce the impact on the environment. This is the responsibility of the industry and the government in working towards net zero. I hope programs like this, and also those involving government and industry together, will move us in this right direction. I'm sure the other speakers will speak much more in detail about a lot of these aspects. And companies like Hubert Enviro and so many other companies that are being set up in order to address the environmental aspect of industry. I think we need to have all of these people focus much more on how to be more environmentally friendly, and also be much more efficient in the way we work. Whether it comes from starting from planning itself, planning of cities and townships, which are industry focused, right down to processes and equipment, and even processing waste. All of these have to be thought out. A lot of planning has to go into it. And I hope that programs like this are much more widespread, done much more frequently, and everybody is able to take advantage of it. Thank you and welcome everyone, and hope to have a great session with all of these eminent speakers. Thank you. Christo, over to you.
Well said, ma'am. It was an eye-opening perspective on energy efficiency mode, which we had been mentioning. And it has been eye-opening for the development of industrial clusters that facilitates a circular economy as well. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you once again. I would like to introduce Dr. Moses to elaborate the key technologies that can mitigate these air emissions and the damage from diesel generators. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Christo, and thank you, panelists and the participants. And it's my pleasure to thank Mr. Jonathan and Mr. Satish Kumar for waking up early in the morning and joining us in this program. It is a great pleasure to have you people. And today we are going to discuss on the zero emissions. And as the slide started, this is in continuation of the program what we had last month, that was on zero liquid discharge. Yeah, we are going to zero liquid discharge is what we did last month, and we found it was very interesting and very thought provoking. So I requested ICC and Thirumalai group to have one more program on zero emissions. And I should take for the keenness and support obtained from Ultramarine and Thirumalai Group and ICC in holding these webinars, which could be useful for the industries per se and also for all the other sectors. Thank you, and I proceed. Next, please. See, it is undesired. What is air pollution? Now, there are three things. One, you have the source of the pollution. One, you have the control measure, and then you have the environment around. And now, of late, the source is the main issue. We have to hit the source. The wonderful order, as Christo was telling, that Delhi is being affected by air pollution. We have had catastrophic problems, and the highest court has given a very good thing to see that the source is changed. That means most of the diesel generators in our country, they said, you please go for gaseous fuel, for natural gas, so that the source is the main criteria. When we control in source, you don't have the problem. See, as we all know, the refineries in the 80s and 90s, they went for lower sulfur content in the fuels. And that has greatly benefited. And that today, the air pollution is controlled to a great extent. I just want to quote, I live in Ashok Nagar in Chennai. When I was a schoolboy in the 70s, we used to have the smell of ammonia gas from all the way from Manali to Ashok Nagar. We used to have the smell of mercaptans from Madras refineries to Chennai, to Ashok Nagar. As a young schoolboy, I used to wonder, what is this? And they said, if you are going to use fuels, you need diesel, petrol, you have to live with the smell. That was the thought in 70s and 80s. Then I really thought, what is going on? And it's so choking, especially when the ammonia leak comes, it's very choking. Now, with all this in the perspective, I remember as a young engineering graduate passing out in the early 80s and going out, I had the opportunity to join work in Chennai Petroleum, the Madras refineries, and that was in the late 80s. I found the mercaptan smell is totally controlled. So what they've done, some work has been done in the source, the raw materials have been handled properly, and automatically the fugitive emissions and the air emissions are reduced. Thereby the city is more safe. I just want to play a small video. My friends will help me now. And this video is a very small video, a few minutes. Please make it large. This was done about 15 years back in the year 2019. I just want you guys to see how Chennai was, probably Jonathan and others, such a lovely place Chennai was. And, you have the Mount Road and the commercial marts, wonderful, and the Kapaleswar Koil along with the green belt. And this is the beautiful Broadway and the clean waterways and no fumes coach transport. This was what Chennai was about some 70, 80 years back. And we had planned avenue trees and cool platform in First Lane Beach and a beautiful parade ground in front of our secretariat. Now let's see what happened in the 50s and 60s. The industrial pollution, I don't know, you can see in the background the type of emissions, the type of the exhaust being sent out, the flare being burnt with no control. And we all started going, and there is industrial hazards, fire hazards, and pollution has become a trading. And hold your breath, this is what we are having on the roads, and the cops are being affected, and fireworks being, there has been so many fires. And now in the 2009, Government of India brought the National Ambient Air Quality in 1994 standard was comfortable, but in 2009, the government brought in the NAAQ standard 2009. And this warranted more control, more parameters to be monitored. The earlier it was 4 or 5 parameters. Now it has increased to almost 13, 14 parameters. And you can see the air pollution and the issues and how the whole community per se is affected. This is the small short film we played in 2009. I'm just redoing it. And now we are going to the second stage of air pollution control measures. And air pollution is the most dangerous one. Even the eyes are injured. Now, what are we going to do about this? We are going to continue to destroy Chennai or Bangalore or whatever in their place we are. We have to get freedom from the pollution. And we need clear blue sky, clean automobiles, green manufacturing. This is the order of the day, so that we can put the kids back to their smiles. And this is in Tamil. It is called Singara Chennai, Pasumai Chennai. And this is what we are looking forward to. And that is why this webinar has been done. Let's monitor, control, and how we are going to do it. That's what we are going to see in this webinar today. Go ahead, please. Now coming back to the slide. Yeah. So now this is, as we saw, the physical, chemical, and biological characteristics of air which affects the life is called air pollution. In yesteryears, we were reading about dust, odor, mist, smoke, etc. And now the main specific pollutants, we are going to add now VOC, SVOC, hydrocarbons, etc. These pollutants play a vital role in affecting the atmosphere, and they have to be addressed. Next, please. Now, these are the major pollution control measures. As we talked about the source, now we are coming to the control measures. And these are very important. Selection of a good wet scrubber, a dry scrubber, or a combination of both wet and dry scrubbers. These are the technologies available where we could knock down carbon monoxide, NOx, CO2, SOx, SPM, VOC, SVOC, and hydrocarbons. These scrubbers are very important, and this can be done as per the source. And next we have for the DG. Today the program, we are going to have a nice talk from Mr. Satish Jonathan from Canada. As we saw, the DG sets are made, the manufacturer is making to a particular dust level. It is fortunate our government and the court has told to retrofit all the DG sets existing with a retrofit facility. Thereby, you make at least 70% of the dust reduced. That is, in case our DG is giving 100 units of dust, it has to be made to 30. We can achieve that with wet scrubbing and dry scrubbing also. And we have done in the last 20 years, big IT parks and so many other companies, we have put these scrubbers in the DG sets also, and especially where the population is more within the city. And even I can say, ITC Chola Sheraton, they have a DG separate, their DG scrubbing device, and most of the IT parks in Chennai at least. Now, next step, how are we going to achieve the 70% reduction? That is where today we have brought in the Canadian firm. Mr. Jonathan and Satish are going to tell us how to put a retrofit device such that the quality of the DG will meet the minimum government requirement and also the court's order. Now coming back to the academics, we have the process emission, the furnace emission, and the boiler emission. Next, please. And this is a simple scrubber. What we call as a wet scrubber, the gas going in and gas going out, and you have an absorbent solution washing it out. And the internals are designed as per the requirement, and the wastewater which is coming out is recirculated for water management. And once it reaches a stage, it cannot further purify. It is taken out as a blow down. So this is the typical screen. And what we have the dry scrubber, where we have some granulates of absorbent, which purifies the air and the emission, and the clean gas is sent out. Next, please. So this is a detailed wet scrubbing system where we have the pollutants from the gas stream being removed, and the wet scrubber that removes gaseous pollutants and wet scrubber. These are very simple designs, and these are integrated such that we can have the outlet quality. And also in the last few years, Government of India has initiated that all the stacks, when they let out the final emission, there has to be a probe and there has to be monitored online. And this is where we are having good solutions and continuous monitoring, and it has to be reported to the government authorities as well. So this will have a clear check and a control mechanism that we don't put out anything into the atmosphere more than what we are allowed to. Next, please. And this is the dry scrubbing system in detail. And the issue is in dry scrubbing system, you have the waste generated and that has to be sent to TSDF or it has to be safely managed. So the air pollution develops into waste. You're going to get a solid waste. So that is also, we have to appropriately design and use. Next, please. So this is a combination of dry and wet combination scrubber, where we have the wet system and the dry system, either way, either option, and final gas sending out, the emission being sent out. This is very important and this is very critical, especially when we talk about hydrochloric acid, sulfur dioxide, sulfur trioxide, NOx, and mercury removal. These combinations are important. It is very important. We should not allow any heavy metal, or especially mercury, or any acid fumes, or even alkaline fumes into the atmosphere that can cause acid rain and very severe damage. Next, please. See, this is a simple DG set emission scrubber. We have put in some big IT parks. These are all in the 6th floor and 7th floor. The scrubbers are put, the diesel exhaust is sent through this and sent out. But now the court order is to make even more stringent standards. And that is why we are planning to have a retrofit, a DG retrofit according to the capacity of the DG. Mr. Jonathan will further say that for 1 kilowatt up to 1000 kilowatt or even 2.5 megawatts, we have retrofits. They can be put in the diesel jet, diesel exhaust, and the air cleansed. And even what is the present allowable 70% reduction or even up to 90%, these can technically achieve. Next, please. So these are process scrubbers. This is the most important thing. There is a very massive scrubber there. You can see, all the acid gases, all the smell from the plants are sucked out with big ID fans and through scrubbing device sent outside. And these are very critical and these are very useful and they are very important. And laboratory gases being sucked out and removed and let out. And these are the different combinations what we normally use. Next, please. And these are furnace emission. Directly from the furnace, the hot air is taken and the media is chosen and the off gases are sent out after cleaning. These are a routine thing and this will, the circulation water is treated in the effluent treatment plant. Next, please. So this is for even boiler exhaust. These are for boiler exhaust where to meet the dust standards. We have scrubbing devices and mainly wet scrubbing devices for this. Next, please. Now, I would like to summarize. Water treatment, wastewater treatment is simple because it is done only in 3 to 4% of the area of the industry. You have a ETP, you have a STP, you have a zero liquid discharge and the handling system. But air, when we see air, when we do a EIA study, when we do a thorough study, when we do a thorough audit, when they take the layout of the plant and sources of the air pollution, multi-sources, different stacks. There are companies which is having even 100 stacks, 100 fume extractors. All these are let out, clear, just like how a water audit is being done. We have to have an emission audit where with all the sources identified and see that 95% we should design such that the dust or the heat or the off gases or the emissions, everything extracted and then let out. With this, I would like to summarize and thank your participants and panelists. And I think we'll have the answers in the question and answer session. I close with this. Christo, kindly take over.
Thank you, sir, for your elaborate and crisp coverage on the wet scrubber and dry scrubber part to combat air pollution. Now, I would like to request Mr. Jonathan and team, who are the technology specialists in controlling the DG exhaust, to give an insight on the technology. Over to you, Mr. Jonathan.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody, and good morning from Canada. Yeah, I'm the Vice President of Catalytic Exhaust Products. We are an emission control manufacturer based in Brampton, Ontario, Canada. Yeah, I've been in this industry for about 10 years. The business was started by my father. about 30 years ago. So we have a wide variety of experience in the emission control industry. And, you know, our primary goal is to provide technologies that can provide clean air and in safe work environments for our customers in the industries we support. I could lead in with the presentation if we are able to get that on the screen. Perfect. Yeah, so for the purposes of this presentation, we will be discussing particulate emission control in diesel generators and diesel engines. Let me see. So we can do next. Perfect. Yeah, so just to recap, I had just mentioned, so Catalytic is an emission control product manufacturer. We're based in Brampton, Ontario, Canada. Founded in 1989. We've been supporting a variety of different industries since our foundation, specifically in mining, tunneling, construction, and more specific to the digisets, power generation industries. Our two primary product lines that we utilize in order to provide clean air would be a variety of diesel oxidation catalysts as well as diesel particulate filters. And we're going to be focusing more so upon the DPF technology for the purposes of our zero emission initiative that we've been discussing today. We at Catalytic have been connected with HECS, Hubert EnviroCare Systems, thanks to Satish and Dr. Moses. It's the beginning of a important relationship, which will hopefully bring clean air to India and retrofit and compliance with the state regulations that have been outlined. So we've already covered diesel exhaust quite thoroughly. However, just to kind of give you a brief overview, exposure to diesel particulate matter and gaseous pollutants by equipment operators and personnel is of great concern. Poor ventilation and poor air quality can typically be distributed. For a lot of the products that we currently supply, we target indoor applications such as mines, tunnels, and construction sites. But of course, diesel exhaust has a very, can be very unsafe in the sense that it can contribute to heart disease, lung disease, and can cause various cancers. So exposure to diesel can cause obviously decreased productivity, increased employee sick time, and can lead to negative environmental impacts as outlined by Dr. Moses in his presentation. So we as a team are looking to reduce the harmful impacts of diesel exhaust, and we can do so with a variety of different technologies. I'll kind of go into some further detail as to what we can supply. So Catalytic Exhaust Products, we are as mentioned, a manufacturer of diesel particulate filters. We have a product line called the SXS diesel particulate filter, and I've simplified the emissions for the purpose of this presentation down to three specific primary emissions that we can reduce for the purposes of the Clean Air Initiative. So the primary concern when utilizing diesel particulate filters is obviously going to be particulate matter. Second to that would be carbon monoxide, and then hydrocarbons from a general standpoint. But basically, with the use of a DPF filter, we can reduce these three emissions from the exhaust flow of diesel engines by oxidizing these harmful pollutants. The chart that is listed on screen at this point in time outlines three of the specific emissions. So we can reduce particulate matter up to about 96%. Carbon monoxide was reduced up to about 97%. And then hydrocarbons operates within a range of 80 to 90% as well. This is a specific test that we had done by CanMet Mining and Mineral Sciences Laboratory. This is a division of Natural Resources Canada, and they basically facilitated testing on a diesel generator for us with use of our SXS diesel particulate filter. This is pretty much as close to as zero emissions as we can get without trying to use electronic, basically. So when utilizing diesel engines anywhere from tier 1 through tier 3, we can achieve significant emission reductions with the use of diesel particulate filters. And that's what we would recommend to many of the owners or operators of said DG sets within the Indian market is to consider the utilization of a diesel particulate filter in order to meet their required regulatory goals, as well as their goals for a safe environment for their citizens and workers. To carry on, I can kind of basically say why catalytic exhaust. Why would you consider working with our company? So our diesel particulate filter kits, they come as a 4-part system. The top point on the screen here. So we include, of course, the diesel particulate filter themselves, as well as back pressure gauge in order to monitor, of course, back pressure of the filter. The filters do plug up slowly, so monitoring the soot load on the filter face will be a necessary step in order to maintaining a clean and safe filter health, basically. We also provide custom DPF cradles in order to mount these units in line with the DigiSet, and then commercial heat blankets as well in order to maintain temperature within the filter itself. Usually we're going to require a higher engine exhaust temperatures, somewhere in the range of 500 to 600 degrees Fahrenheit is usually a minimum in order to achieve the highest oxidation levels that were outlined in the last slide. We try to make sure we provide direct fit designs for quick and easy installation, something that can be purchased, removed from the box, and essentially installed within the engine fairly quickly. We pride ourselves on competitive pricing, and then as well, longer operating life with a very extensive warranty that we can provide. And this should lower our maintenance costs in general, costing from a operator's perspective will be significantly reduced with clean air down the line. We can also utilize a variety of different catalytic coatings to ensure the highest levels in emission reduction, which can be discussed in further detail on an application to application basis. I wanted to share with you a couple pictures basically of different products we currently supply in a wide quantity around North America. So diesel oxidation catalysts, these are also known as, in North America, we refer to them as scrubbers as well, but not in the same term as the wet and dry scrubbers that Dr. Moses has been describing. But diesel oxidation catalysts come in a wide variety of shapes and sizes. Here's just a few of the smaller ones that we supply. For the purposes of the net zero initiative, the goal is to achieve 70%, minimum for particulate matter and carbon monoxide. So a diesel oxidation catalyst will only get you basically about 25% reduction in particulate matter, but they do have the ability to achieve about 90% in carbon monoxide and up to 80% in hydrocarbons. So diesel oxidation catalyst is a very popular model in North America and other mining applications. But in order to achieve those 70% particulate matter reductions, we have to employ the next technology up, which would be the diesel particulate filters. So I had to use some pictures of our shop here. Didn't have anything professionally shot, but this is an example of a diesel particulate filter. It looks similar to the last units you've seen, but essentially we fabricate these units in-house. We source all the materials and essentially build them from scratch at our location in Brampton, Ontario, Canada. These units can be utilized in a wide variety of applications. The units you see on the floor here were essentially sent to a mine in Northern Ontario, which needed to reduce its particulate matter intake to abide by local mining standards. But in a sense, the goals are similar: reduce particulate matter, reduce harmful emissions in order to provide a safe work environment, a safe living environment. Anything we can do to essentially promote as close to net zero as humanly possible. So this line is the SXS diesel particulate filter, and I can continue on with some further information in how we can supply and assist the Indian market from here forward. So our current line, and essentially I'll say like our stock component line, these are units that would have a shorter lead time. is our SXS model. So we have a range anywhere from 50 kVA up to 550 kVA. So that's just our standard offering that is currently provided in North American markets. With a lot of the units we supply, it's for equipment standards such as excavators, scoops, trucks, trams, on-road vehicles. So usually 50 to 550 kVA is the requirement. However, in the sense of large-scale diesel DG sets and generators, they can be up to 1,000 kVA, up to 2.5 megawatts, as mentioned by Dr. Moses. So we do have the ability to custom fabricate and supply solutions for 2,000 kVA and above, if required, and we can kind of gauge what the market requirements are at a later date. But this is sort of a general chart. Kind of an identifier chart for current systems of 550 or lower. But we do have the ability, as mentioned, to custom fabricate solutions. So here's an example of a large scale DPF solution. This would be something closer to the range of, say, about 1,500 kVA. I say, this would be close to, so about 1,250 to 1,500 kVA would utilize a custom DPF solution such as this. This would essentially be a skid-mounted unit that would end up either on the roof of a building or, strapped, as you can see here, to a cargo container. The DPFs are lined up throughout the unit. There's basically 8 units in total in series, with the outlet coming out here. So this is a technology that we also have the ability to provide, and can go into further detail on how something like this would work at a later date. But we do have the ability to fabricate larger scale units to accommodate 1,500 to 2.5 megawatt if necessary. So we can get into details on that at a later point in time. To kind of go over Catalytic's product offering, these are the certifications that we currently hold that are of note. So essentially, CARB, we have a CARB verified particulate matter level 3 certification. So that essentially is for stationary prime and emergency standby generators and air pumps for tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 engines. So as long as the digisets are a tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 engine year model, we can basically achieve CARB compliance. CARB, California Air Resources Board, I don't know if they hold too much sway or power within Indian markets, but they're typically like the leading force within North America, and in certain sections of Europe they adopt CARB standards as their primary go-to point. As well, we hold certifications through MSHA, that's Mining Safety and Health Administration, within Canadian and American mines. These units achieved particulate matter standards that were deemed acceptable for indoor mining applications. Further details on both of these certifications can be found at the links below, and you can kind of take a look at that if you wanted to kind of further investigate our product offering. Throughout North America and Europe, and then actually also in China, we haven't had the opportunity to dip our feet too much into India yet, but I'm very excited to investigate that. But we sell to a variety of different engine manufacturers, engine equipment makes, models. So for example, Bobcat, Caterpillar, John Deere, Cummins are just some of the customers that we currently assist within North American and some European markets. I know Cummins and Caterpillar are likely to show up within Indian Digisets, as well as Mahindra, and there's many more to come. But we do have the experience and the ability to assist with a variety of different engine applications, as outlined by our current customer list that we satisfy at this point in time. And I believe that will essentially close my intro. And I went on for a question period if we have time, but you may take over from there, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Jonathan. That was thoughtfully put across. Thank you for your insights on the impact of DG exhausts and DPF installation, size, and the capacity which we should adopt for Thank you for all those details.
So
Thank you.
Christo, if someone has some specific questions with the Jonathan, they can ask now. If someone has some specific questions regarding DPF technology.
Yeah, we have the question and answer session next to this. Now, after
Okay.
this, there will be a specific section for question answers.
Okay.
Now, I request Dr. Mohan to share his seasoned thoughts on how a balanced protocol may promote zero emissions to ensure a sustained growth.
Okay. Can I share the screen? Are you able to see the screen? Sir, are you able to see the screen?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
sir, we are able to see.
Okay. Very good evening to all of you. It's indeed a great pleasure to see all of you again. What I'm going to talk about is an industrial policy respecting the necessity of zero emission. If we want to move to 21st century, I think we have to start now. And our country is going to be a developed countries or whatever it is. I think we have to start thinking about the zero emission. So already, carbon zero in an industry business context, if you want to talk about it, then first thing is we should change our mind to have a green growth strategy. So the moment that I start within my industry or within a cluster of industries, automatically leading the way to low carbon future. The point is that we all desire to leave our natural environment in a better condition than we found it. Clean growth is not an option, but a duty that we owe to next generation. Economic growth has to go hand in hand with greater protection for our environment, especially forest, biodiversity, beaches, clean air, and so on. Clean growth means we try to get more income while cutting the greenhouse gas emission. So how to do that? Achieving the clean growth while ensuring an affordable energy supply for business and consumable at heart of industrial strategy. It will increase our productivity, create good jobs, boost earning power, and also more than that, it creates a good climate and environment. So let me just tell the point, what are the ways that we can look at it? So if I want to improve it, so this can be done with each industry, they have to do it on their own. It is not that somebody pushes a policy and then do that to do it. So any industry, whether it's a small or big or the large industries or international, they have to start thinking about it. Improving the business and industry efficiency, 25% emission by 2025. So whatever I do an emission now, make it at 25% at 2025. Then start working about all those things. And in that, you can have a work in partnership with the other industries. Can I use, we will see some technology, what we can use it. Support business to improve their energy productivity. And you yourself can develop an energy efficiency scheme so that it will be, so maybe, sometime I talk in concept, but I think many countries have already implemented it. So unless you brainstorm it and then coming out with what it is there, then it may be very difficult for Pollution Control Board or government ministry can insist on it. So you can demonstrate, there are a lot of people who have demonstrated at different countries, especially Denmark, UK, and some very good industries in USA. I think that is what we may have to start and then leading it. We are very good in production, but at the same time, what is the emission from our side? And we are somehow in second or third in the whole world. So develop a strategic approach to greenhouse gas, whatever it is coming out, removal technologies, and phase out the installation of high carbon for fossil fuel heating, and support the recycling of seed produce to reduce the business. And more importantly, can I use the waste? Can I make a zero waste or zero emission? Zero emission does not mean that it's only air. It is waste also is one of the emission, or water, what it goes out is. So you have to look at on, especially on waste and air, will be more on the low carbon future assets. So the zero emission, by definition, it aims to approach the ideal of zero environmental stress. So it is not that you are sending out sub-zero, but zero environmental stress by suppressing the resource consumption and minimizing the waste. So this can contribute to create more effective technology and new production process, conservation and recycling of natural resources. And as I am sure all of us as industrial communities, entailing business, government and society at large can collaborate on practical application of zero emission concepts. As we approach 21st century, zero emission will be the talk of the day. It will be the key to advanced sustainable development as a way of life. So earlier we have talked about end of pipe treatment. That was the earlier system. Then we have come with cleaner production, okay, so that the waste is reduced. But now what we are trying to look at is either you try to use that into other industry, or try to give it as a, or make a symbiosis, or try to use your so-called waste or energy, or from somebody's waste can be an energy thing here. So that is what is called zero emission. So maybe, we may have to start looking at it on that. So the industrial characteristics, what we do is, the knowledge infrastructure is, we are all very good from our Indian side, resource, but unfortunately we have to have if you want to have a value chain, we take the resource material, adding value, and then trying to give as a product. And the technology provided, on the other hand, we never worried about the recycling. So what we may have to start looking at it is how far that I can do the recycling as well as reuse of it. Okay, so recycling and reuse has different meaning. So that, I think if we can do that, it may be very, it is not a one-sided approach. You should have a multi-pronged approach that you may have to do it. So, and more the insights on emissions intensive industry. So the first and foremost is, can we put industrial decarbonization? Can we reduce that carbon is more than putting a price on carbon. So it is not that some carbon is on price and then somebody gives money for carbon reduction and so on. More than that, I would always look at it, am I doing better maximum? Okay, not because some climate change fund is coming and so on. So decarbonizing the primary production requires breakthrough technology. So there are technologies like here they have presented something that we may have to look at on breakthrough technology, so that the CHG, what it is emanating, will be very less. The second is the industrial decarbonization involves new sectoral coupling and new value chain and new business model. Okay, so it is not going to be further stressed by the control authorities, but actually you will be getting a lot of benefits if I make a zero emission asset. The incumbents are strong and the change also will have to come from inside. This is one point that this is a major message I would like to give. Each industry, how I can do the decarbonization, it is not pollution control board or some experts come from other country to tell. You yourself can do that very nicely, and people have come out and then proved to be very successful in other countries. I have visited some of the industries where they have made the decarbonization very successfully. The global competitiveness and uneven playing field are issues that need to be dealt with. Of course, depends upon whether it's a big industry or small industry, but still we can start working on that very carefully. So how are the ways that I can decarbonize options categories. So one is demand reduction. Does not mean that I have to reduce my production, but can we make it little more service efficient? Then material efficiency, can I use a lightweight material and the lifetime can be increased? So can we do that? Because somebody may ask the question that whether I may lose a business. It is not. If it is more people and you may get business market in other countries and many countries. So it is possible if we are doing a very good system. And energy efficiency is always important. And let us look for some fossil-free industry assets. So it is good that thermal power plants now, they are trying to, especially coal power plant, they are trying to reduce it mainly because the fossil-free industry concept. And more importantly, my suggestion would be you look at everything as a circular system rather than a single linear system. So the circular system is one thing you learn from nature. You take a tree and whatever it comes, okay, even the tree leaves are falling down, that becomes again make a circular inside. Again, it goes as a input, as a manure for the same tree, and it becomes circular. There is nothing called waste from a tree. So similarly, an industry also can be thought about as a tree. So whatever it comes as a waste, something that it has produced by you. So automatically there will be some value for that. So kindly look at on every, you can have a micro level circular economy, meso level economy, or macro level economy, especially on recycling. The moment that I put recycling and symbiosis is not within my industry. I try to make a cluster of industries and one waste may be utilized by another industry in a very better way. So look at on the circular economy or circular thing rather than linear. Linear is you take the resource and do the process and give the product, the remaining thing goes as waste. There is nothing comes as a circle. So that needs to be changed first. And zero emission primary production. So mainly you can look for electrification, biomass, or carbon storage. So this is something that we should start working about it. So how can it be achieved? So there are many, so I'm just putting the three scopes, which is the European Union, they have given this. I think this is equally applicable to us. The first scope, if I want to reduce the CO2 and SF6, okay, so that is a scope 1. So try to look for fuel combustion, something else, okay, or own vehicle fleet instead of own vehicle. In fact, other countries, they are now, every industry, even the MD should come in their bus on. There is nothing called a separate bus or separate car that he can. It is a policy that, so automatically the CO2 first level scope is being adopted as such. So one vehicle and CPT emission will be very, very less. The scope 2, energy indirect emission. So you may be purchasing electricity, but somebody would have burned a lot of coal or a lot of fuel, and for that, I think we may have to start looking at it, whether I can do that, or cooling for my own use, can I do in a different way? So if I can do the scope 2, CH4, N2O, okay, can be reduced quite a lot. The first one is CO2 SF6. Then if I look at on the third scope, scope 3, other indirect emissions like purchase goods and services, product use, waste disposal, transportation and distribution, and employee business travel. Okay. In fact, some company in UK, they said no more flight travel. You have to, because that is the costliest one. So try to get minimum of HFC and TFC. So you can just see currently what is the carbon or the emissions. And now if I put the scope 1, how much I am reducing it, scope 2, how much I am reducing it, scope 3, if I am doing it, then almost you are coming to zero emission. So the what are the ways that it can be done? Okay, so you may have to look at CO2 very high level if I want to do that. This is options. So one is the renewable energy contract or power purchase agreement, where it is not directly from the coal power and other kind of a thing, but maybe a renewable electrical hydroelectric project. So, and biomass boiler, biomass from organic waste, biomass certification, and CHP is a combined heat and power. Okay, so if you want to have a both, you can also get the heat as well as generate power from that. So that is a new concept that it is going on. Normally, what we do is separately we are producing for heat and power is electricity, but can we not use these combinations? And CHP from organic waste. So that's the first level. I can reduce the potential savings of CO2 will be very high. The second one, we can also do energy efficiency, photovoltaic on site, and CHP from natural gas or thermal solar or solar side. And the third level is carbon compensation or conversation. So there is good way of, so these are all very easily you can implement. Whereas as you go down, it may be little more difficult aspect. So the law of unintended consequences for this, you get an unexpected benefit, a positive unexpected benefit that you will be getting. Unexpected drawback maybe is addition of desired effect or the policy. So you may think that it's unexpected, but it is a very good policy wise, your sustainable policy. And the perverse result is contrary to what was originally intended. So now it has, that means I don't worry about what is happening on the environment. That will be changing quite a lot. So the methodology wise, I just wanted to tell you a small thing. There are around 22 production site industries. So it is totally, if you look at it, the emission from the CO2 for that, even it is 68%. Okay. And then the blue color, the emission from electricity grid, that is 29%. And emission from light fuel oil, that is 4,420. And emission from purchase heat is 14,000. So we have a variety of changes. So if I want to look at on the main thing, now you can have where I can, this is only scope 1 and 2, which is a major system. So please draw this diagram for your own industry. So what is the real energy emission that what we are doing? CO2, CH4, this is mainly of CO2. And CH4 is much more, this thing, 1 ton of CH4 will be equivalent to 24. Okay, that's a way that it will be impact on climate change will be higher. So you can, if there is a chance for CH4 to come out, then if I am reducing it, if I am reducing 1 ton, automatically 24 tons of CO2 will be reduced. So that way you may have to start looking at breakdown of emissions, what it is there, and then brainstorm where I can reduce the emission. So that's the baseline data. Then you fix a target, what I want to be by 2025 or 2030 or 2050. And what are the opportunities for collaboration or other industries I can cluster and so on, and alignment and prioritization, implementation and revenue. So I think if you can start working on it in a micro level or macro level or meso scale, you will be able to finally earn good amount of money, that you are saving a lot of money as well as you are creating a very good environment for our country. So this is the basic analysis on the data, and based on which that you can come out with a mapping side. So most importantly, how do the waterfall can come in? So if I can make an energy efficiency, then I can reduce around 75,000 tons of CO2. This is an actual industry. I'm just giving a data how they have gone to reduce from 400,000 to 10,000. Okay, so I think then 75 then 15,000, then how much they are saving on green power and green thermal, and also the carbon consumption. These are all the technologies. So mostly that we may have to look for the technologies are available. It is not that we have to reinvent the wheel, but I think it is only the mindset we should start thinking about. So this I will just leave out. So more, this is the current level. Okay, if no action is taken, what will be the tons of CO2 that it will be continuing. So, but what we wanted to achieve, okay, what is the target and what I am going to achieve. If I am achieving the target or even lesser than that, my thing will be better. So you may have to start working on these performance tracking. Then that will be the, I would say, you can come out with a sustainability report. And this is the major parameter or performance parameter on that. So the and this is one technology or technique that people are in UK. They have to make a reporting, okay, streamlined energy and carbon reporting to the government. So the government, I am not saying that government has to come back and then make an insistence. I think as industries, we are also interested in business. We are also interested in profit. We also don't want to spend a lot of money on waste, which is going as CO2 or CH4 and so on. So I think you can make a good reporting and then try to come out with where are we going into that. So sometimes the government needs to publish plans for streamlined energy regulations, and it outlines the new mandatory kind of reporting that it is there, but I'm not sure how far. Maybe, within no time, it will also come to our country. So include a report on carbon emission annually and review the same. The reporting must include electricity, gas, transport, and at least one intensity metric such as ton CO2 per employee or ton CO2 per production or ton CO2 per or even the carbon what it is there, that also carbon footprint you can make it. A narrative about energy efficiency taken in the financial year. I think this is what it is needed for the system. So it is not carbon zero is a mandatory. You are doing a service for yourself. I am not saying even to environment. You will have a better environment within your thing. So even if I am releasing CO2 without this, the CO2 may not be going up. We may assume that everything goes up, but it may come down. So one has to really look at as a service, not only to the people, to the environment, but also as a service to yourself. So it is a good, it is not a financially burden. It can give a very good thing for you, and it's cost effective and supply and client sustainability goals. So as a service, integrated zero carbon transition solutions have considerable potential for you. And especially for our country, I think we are good. We are not that much CO2 emission people, not like USA or China like that. So, but at the same time, still there is a good opportunity for us to reduce it. So zero carbon as a service and renewable and networks. So there is a good chance that you can, chemical industries are best positioned to the world leader in zero carbon transition as a service. So you are the best first one to prove that this is very good possibility as a thing. So kindly take up each one of you and then try to discuss about it. So the way that you can upgrade or replace infrastructure equipment, supply with greener energy, overhaul and reinvent energy use, finance, leverage, and nowadays artificial intelligence, which is going to be very helpful on this particular one, or big data or data mining. You can really use this technology, which has come as a thing for zero carbon transition as a service. So this may be my last slide. What it is needed is a new industrial policy. I would say it is not necessary for the industrial ministry has to give our industry. You yourself come out with a policy. okay, with a vision and with a roadmap with pathways for zero emission and development and system innovation. What is the new innovation that you are doing, and make it diffuse to all the people, not only to you but also to your own people as well as your client and other. So here, I think the collaboration with other industries and other institutes are very important, and we will be very glad to associate with any industry on this. And institutional, you can build up the capacity and international recognition and policy coherence. That way, you will be able to get very good system as well. So our ambition should be, we should be the world leader in zero carbon transition as a service. Service not only to environment, but also to the people and to more than yourself as a service. So automatically faster growth, higher value, and better impact that you can reach. Okay. So I think, thank you very much for listening. So this is a concept, I think my only dream is some of the industries could take up and then start working on it. I'll be very glad to help you on that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your elaborate coverage on zero emission and the stress on the need for decarbonization. You have also touched planned circular perspective, which has also been addressed by Ms. Ramya as well, that capitalizes and to achieve zero emissions. Breakdown and calculation and analysis of emissions for every industry that also has economic benefits. We are sure that the companies will take this on the serious note to become the leader in zero emission strategy. I request Mr. V.T. Muthi, the Indian Chemical Council Southern Region Chairman, to give us an insight on industry's expectation. Over to you, sir.
Can you have the presentation? Well, thank you, Dr. Mohan. Such a knowledgeable person you are, and we can listen to you for days together. The other day we had an opportunity to listen to you on a zero liquid discharge. Today on emissions, you see. So every subject you have mastered. I wish I became a student in IIT. Come to you. Anyway, I'll come to you on a different role. From ICC, I'll come. Next slide.
Yeah. Please, please.
I've been asked to give. Sorry, sir. I've been asked to give a view about both sides about what the public and the government desire and how the industry should be run, and from the industry point of view, you see what government can do or what public can do. Of course, they realize, their own problems. So first, let me start with what public activists. In fact, we have to give more weightage to the activist opinion and regulatory authorities. So they want chemical and pharma industry to act as a responsible corporate citizen, definitely to ensure a green, clean, sustainable environment. And they also want that it should be ensured zero pollution with zero discharge into land, air, water, and sea. Of course, people don't like industry to let out pungent, obnoxious odor, dust, or CO2, or even steam into atmosphere. I personally do not like if industry, if I'm passing through somewhere and if industry emits. I myself am very unhappy about it, though I've been in industry for the last 50 years. Now, the next one is the zero accidents, because that causes major injury, and one accident in industry affects the perception about the entire industry, which I think all of you will agree on that. The company comply with all regulatory conditions imposed at the time of approving the project. Generally, industry complies, but there are always exceptions. And like Dr. Mohan had said, zero emission means it's not the zero emission, actually the zero stress on the environment. And that some industries are erring on that side. I think that we have to discipline ourselves. Some one or two companies err on non-compliance on the above expectations, and they have put the entire chemical industry with a poor public image. And now we need to build a brand image through effective communication. Ramya also had talked about this, and Dr. Moses also had said about that. We agree chemicals have become an inevitable part of society. Nobody can deny that, because it contributes to about 2.1% towards India's GDP and accounts for about almost 16% of manufacturing sector. The question is, how can we eliminate odor or dust and achieve zero emission so that we are treated as a friendly industry? This is the topic for today, and you have heard from Dr. Mohan and also about the catalytic dust control system for the compressors. Next slide, please. Next slide. Now, no, just previously, go to the previous one. Yeah. So, health risk, in fact, there are some myths. We must clear these myths. Some are maybe true also. You see, the people think or people consider chemical industry as a health risk come mainly from consumer products, which is made from harmful chemicals and use of synthetic chemical and causes cancer. This may be true also partly sometimes. Major water and air pollution comes from chemical factories. When we approach industrial zone, we have to wear masks. I think they are right. Children are also allergic to smell, dust, and polluted air. There have been many instances of the society suffering because they are very close to the industry. Environmental damage from dumping chemical waste near residential area. This so happened because industry came first, then the residential area came. Naturally, there is no other place. The industry started dumping their waste. Now, industrial accidents are mostly in chemical plants with loss of life. This is a myth or general perception. Plastics are the cause of environmental pollution. Agrochemicals are hazardous to crop growth and soil. However, in spite of all the myths, let us see the facts. I'm not trying to protect industry, because I belong to both sides. I represent the association. I'm a coordinator between the government and regulatory authorities and the industry. The greenhouse gas emission from the chemical industry accounts for only about 8% of the global CO2 emission. Of course, Dr. Mohan may not agree with that, but I think definitely industry emits CO2, but it's the chemical industry as such is only about 8%. Mostly it comes from the thermal and other industries. In India, out of the manufacturing and construction industries, chemicals contribute to about 9% of the CH emissions. Globally, India is the third largest emitter of these gases. This needs our attention. Unfortunately, these myths are not addressed properly, and the politicians and activists exploit them, which has made the chemical industry an unwanted neighbor, especially in Tamil Nadu. Can I have the screen, please? I don't have any other material. Hello, can I have the screen? I don't know where the screen has gone.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 1 second, sir.
Is the screen there? Are you able to see the screen, or I'm not able to see?
No, we are not also seeing the screen.
That's the problem with the slideshow, Anyway, let me see whether I have not happening. Anyway, that is an awareness, either in awareness at global level. Yeah, that screen will show, because yes, right from 60s, in the 60s, earlier 60s, it was focused more on safety. Then came 80s on pollution, pollutants. That came on 90 CO2 CFCs. That I started off at the 1960s. So I've gone through all this phase. At some point of time, CFCs were switched over. In fact, companies made a lot of money. And right now, the focus is more on Green Deal. That's a green chemistry, like what Dr. Mohan had said. The next slide is talk about how to change the public. Can I have the screen? Because my Apple phone is too small to read. Is there any problem, technical problem?
So some technical glitch, sir. Give us 1 minute.
Anyway, I'll skip that screen because that is the screen which I had taken from the Avalon Consulting. So what industry expects? Let us see what industry expects till that screen comes in. We fully agree from the industry point of view. We fully agree with what public expects from us. We should have a zero emission. Yes, for this, we agree some policing is required by authorities, but with a may I help you attitude. Which includes creating a consortium of experts, people like Dr. Mohan and other Dr. Moses, consultants who can co-work with the industry and CPCBs and find out solutions to problems. This is what Dr. Mohan was telling. In fact, even ICC and associations would like to step in here and offer some solutions to the industry who are having problems there. Ultimately, we have to together solve the problems. And industry has to realize if you do not change our old ways of operations, polluting the environment, public and courts will force us to close down our operations. We have already seen this happening in Tamil Nadu. So it is a warning signal. Yeah, you got it right. Can you expand it a little bigger? Can you make it a little bigger? Is it possible to make it bigger? Is it possible to make it bigger?
Is it okay? This is Venkat. Actually, I pulled out your thing. I shared the screen.
Okay, okay. Now, can you make it bigger? The letters
Venkat,
are small.
The screen says the screen mode is not there.
Okay, I'll
slideshow
try.
Slideshow mode is not there.
Yeah, actually, I put it on slideshow only in computer, but
anyway,
for some reason it is not displaying that way. 1 minute.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it is.
Gone back. Anyway, we have come back to the original one. But the point is, what I'm trying to stress is industry has to realize. See, yeah, next one. Yeah, this is the one. If you see this slide, no, go back. Please go back. Yeah. If you see this slide here, this gives a detail of what chemical companies should do, what the government can facilitate. And basically, the objectives are reduce emissions and reduce waste, innovation push, economic growth, and improved brand image, and competitive advantage. All these are given. But what I would like to add here is the circular economy, which Dr. Mohan was saying, recycling about the waste. You will see in the next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Can you move to the next slide? Yeah. So I was in the bottom one. Ease of at the same time, a balanced approach is required while formulating environmental policies. Rules and regulations by government. Some standards are so stringent, especially with some discharge standards for organic chemicals and say, dyes and chemicals sector, which are difficult to achieve even with the most modern technology. As Dr. Mohan said, maybe it will take more time. New technology can be developed or will be developed by us, but definitely steps have to be taken to reduce these pollutants. Present system of classifying clusters from the government side, we need into red and orange category. This has really reduced our expansion and other new product proposals. I think some attention is required here. Create more accredited state of air testing, art testing and lab, so that their sampling and results are accepted by CPCBs and PCBs, or emission continuous monitoring at TNPCB is acceptable to the proof, is acceptable proof. Here is the point which I would like to discuss later date with Dr. Mohan. We have a lot of good institutions in Tamil Nadu, like IITs and other institutions. We can request them, we can have a coordination cooperation program, where the students and then the faculty can visit some of the clusters and have a cluster, an office in the cluster, where students are given specific problems of emission or liquid discharge problem. They can work on it, they can come back and they can use the labs in these advanced labs in these institutions and come back with the result. I think this is an area where ICC and other associations would like to cooperate with the institution and the industry together, so that we will find out a solution for it. In fact, we can collect problem banks from all the institutes, all the industry, and then we can sit down with the institutions as which one is the one which is interesting. The students normally stay for 6 months or 1 year period. Then excess CO2, of course, which Dr. Mohan was saying, hydrogen, etc., can be converted into some useful product. That's what we talked about, zero emission. Research is on to produce methanol. The ICC is working on a small-scale methanol plants, maybe because we have the gas lines, pipeline being connected right from Chennai across to Ranipet. It goes right up to Tuticorin. So this is an area where, because methanol transportation is the major problem for industries, and industries, we are looking at it, whether industries can have small size plant just for self-use. And the most important point from the industry point of view is about these HECS and housing complexes coming up near chemical clusters. We always read about whether it is Bhopal or Tuticorin or Vizag. Always, you see, of course, with 99.99% guarantee, we can run the plant. But still that 0.0001% is still there. And if a gas emission comes up, or if there is a leak from one of the tanks, like last time we had a seminar on that. So that leak naturally causes an environmental effect. And if there are close by residential complexes, it affects them. And that causes a major damage to the image of the chemical industry. Next one. Next one, please. So some various state governments we are talking about right now about are proposing to have, because Mr. Christo is there, the state government is proposing to have exclusive parks for pharma, API, and specialty chemical, biotech, etc., which is just of the plug-in type, so that along with complete utilities like common treated effluent, piped water, recycled water, all that, so that you just carry your formula or whatever equipment and then put it there and then start running it. Of course, Pollution Control Board here has to play a major role in facilitations of such developments, particularly free from emissions. And Gujarat has set up facilitation assistance through Gujarat Cleaner Production Board. They call it a GPCB, and the Gas Energy Research and Management Institute, Jamil. Some similar institutes, not that we copy that, but similar institutes to facilitate the industry with the cooperation of the assistance of institutions like IITs, the government can take the lead, and we all will support that. And TN government may also expedite issuing a separate policy for chemical industry, which is long due. They have issued a policy recently for the pharma industry, giving certain concessions. In fact, our request is, of course, association, we are members of both pharma as well as the chemical industries. So our request is whatever you have given to pharma, I think the same should be extended to the chemical industries, so that you see people are more encouraged to make investment in Tamil Nadu, which is short of resources. And of course, projects like the cracker or the methanol or some large chemical plants will definitely help in developing a lot of MSCs. And TN government may consider some benefits and concessions as given to pharma. That's what we are seeing. And the regulatory agency policy of issuing closure notices, even for small issues, need to be re-looked into. I'm not saying that we should not, of course, because this is the court order. But this is indeed a sword hanging on industry all the time. Honorable NJT may please be informed about the problem faced by industries in case of sudden closures. Not only employees lose their job, company loses market, country's reputation as a reliable source gets affected, and we do not get orders if we are declared as one of the polluters located in a red zone. So that is the more damaging one. You may not be polluting, but the very fact that you are located in a red zone, that has an impact on our market. Finally, GST and import duty exemption for all pollution abatement devices, whether it is for liquid or air or for any other matter, instrumentation and equipment used for zero emission need to be considered. I'll stop now and show 2 slides on responsible care, because we manage the responsible care for Global International Council of Chemical Association. Of course, there are many members here who are already part of responsible care, but we just want to propagate. Other day when we were talking with the Pollution Control Board chairman, he said, I wish all industries should become responsible care members. Next slide, next, please. Next slide. So responsible care has 4 pillars: environment, health, safety, and security. And ultimate focus is the sustainability. In fact, it's not that we can guarantee no accident, but definitely minimize the accidents because of very intensive audit at every point, right from process technology up to the delivery of the goods to the consumer, even what he does with the packing. So the entire value chain gets audited. So no accidents, no injuries, and no harm to environment. That should be our goal. As Dr. Mohan has rightly said, and efforts have to be made by individual units like us. Government cannot come and help, and engagement with all stakeholders, whether it is a customer or supplier or general public or authorities. All this is the responsibility of the industry. We as a responsible care recognized industry should also look for a sustainable future. Next one. Next one, please. Next slide. So this responsible care consists of 7 codes which are described here. Anyway, this presentation will go along with the distribution. So you may be able to go through that. That pollution prevention code, that takes care of both zero liquid discharge as well as the solid waste and also zero emission. So the auditors who are very experienced in these matters would go into details of the present plant, and there is absolutely confidentiality into this, because we don't, none of the data is published anywhere or even allowed to go outside between the that is RC team and then the company. So you don't have to be concerned about that, because it doesn't go to the pollution control board or anybody else. But our aim is to ensure that you achieve this responsibility of zero pollution into the atmosphere or into the liquid. Next one. Next one, please. So finally, to sum up, expectations of both sides need careful consideration, and the balance should be arrived at keeping in mind the economic development while retaining the nature of our future generation. Image of chemical industry need to be changed. Such seminars help us to build around a brand image by eliminating emissions. Suggest all chemical units implement responsible care. We are looking at concessional audit fees for MSME. Thank you again for the organizer for giving us this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, Modi sir. Thank you for your elaborate insight on public expectation and industry expectation as well, and your eye-opening remark on the cluster visit by the students from the various institutions like IIT. Surely that can be looked upon. That can be looked upon surely at a very serious note. And we have noted down the industry's expectations from the government to make Tamil Nadu as the chemical destinations for creating clusters. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Now there are some few questions for Mr. Jonathan and team. I would like to take 2-3 questions since we are running out of time. Mr. Jonathan,
Yes, sir.
catalytic retrofit, can it work for coal-based power plants?
So now at this point in time, we're only targeting diesel engines. We don't currently have a solution for coal plants. So this is going to be specific to diesel emission reduction. And yeah, coal at this point, we don't have a solution for from our location.
Right.
Is there any back pressure that is that will be affecting if the DEPF is fitted on the DG?
Yeah, so basically the particulate filter itself, it will regenerate itself if operating at acceptable temperature conditions. So if we're operating between say 500 to 600 degrees Fahrenheit consistently, or somewhere around that balance point, the filter will clean itself, but there is a required cleaning maintenance. And that interval will be determined on a sort of engine to engine basis. But in order to give you sort of a ballpark number, I'd say like maybe maybe somewhere between 500 to 800 hours per, like, every 500 to 800 hours, they may need to do a manual cleaning. And that would involve taking the filter off the machine, doing a DPF clean, and then putting it back. But the filters themselves should typically last well over 4 to 5 years, assuming the correct engine maintenance and standards are being met.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Another question. Apart from cleaning, any other maintenance will be required, annual maintenance or anything which is required for this?
So typically there won't be any actual, so maintenance on the machine would be the only thing I would say would be required. The filters themselves, besides cleaning, are going to be essentially, there'll be no maintenance with them. But as I see in the chat, like ash loading, basically over the course of time, let's say every 500 hours or 1,000 hours, they will plug up with ash, and that will require a manual cleaning. Now, a cleaning service can be either like a bacon clean. It can be cooked in an industrial kiln up to a certain temperature and then blown out with some sort of safe DPF cleaning system, which we can provide information to. But as far as engine maintenance is concerned, like we would highly recommend the use of ultra low sulfur diesel fuel if possible. Low sulfur diesel will ultimately lead to less particulate matter on the filter, as well as higher emission reductions in like the 90% ranges that we had touched upon earlier. But yeah, maintaining a clean and maintaining the engine as well as utilizing low sulfur diesel fuel will ultimately assist the catalyst or the particulate filter life as well.
I think now India is following the BS6 the standard system for the diesel engine, and the sulfur contains around 10 milligram per kg. I hope so. Now new regulation.
You are right, Satish.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah. So very low sulfur, 10 milligram per kg. That's not much.
Thank you. Thank you for your answers. And there are some questions on when can we expect this in India? Any time frame is there?
So we are in the process, and hopefully like in next 6 weeks, it should be, first system should be in India. So we are in talk with Dr. Moses, and I think very soon the Indian customer can see the first system there in their office.
Sure,
Yeah,
sure.
Christo,
Yeah.
I would like to just add something. What we guys are going to do is this DG retrofit does not have as on date any supplier. Because there are two things, as Jonathan and Satish and everybody in the panel and all. The government law is there, and we have to meet it. And also only 4 laboratories in this country is authorized to accept the prototype, to vet the prototype. So that's what Satish is trying to say. We're going to move in the first machine and put it on the test prototype bed in Haryana, and then get it vetted. Maybe it takes a month's time. So 3 months could be the lead. And thereafter, these machines will be imported and retrofitted in the sets in India. This is what I think Satish and Jonathan would like to communicate. I hope, Jonathan, I'm right, and Satish, we are right.
Yes, you are right.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that would be correct.
Thank you for this clarification, sir. And I would like to invite Mr. Venkatraghavan for giving the closing remarks.
Thank you very much. I just want to take a little bit to share my screen, and then we will go. Is my screen visible for everybody?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We had a very interesting session today. We had some MS speakers. We had very good introductions from Ramya and Neely on what industry and government do towards reach the goal of zero emissions. Just want to talk about a few and summarize some of the aspects that were covered in today's presentation by all the speakers. If you see there, nothing can be more contemporary than what we are seeing today. The industry has to move from what is known as cure to prevention. So it's like, a doctor, you can see that image, a doctor treating a patient for curing, and then to a vaccine for, hopefully like, the vaccine that Russia has announced for COVID-19. So we need to go from cure to prevention. Earlier, if you see, we were always talking about waste treatment and waste reduction and waste avoidance, but now to move towards source reduction. Dr. Moses beautifully put out how industries in Manali had, reduced the sulfur emissions by looking at the source through designing efficient processes. He talked about wet and dry scrubber systems, which can reduce emissions, and there are technologies available. Ramya also touched upon a little bit on circular economy. Mr. V.T. Murthy talked about product stewardship and responsible care. We should also be going, when industries are moving closer to consumers so that the transport emissions can be avoided. This is the pathway to reduce emissions and go towards zero emissions. I think it was a very excellent presentation by Dr. Mohan on how a particular industry has moved forward to reduce their carbon print and their emission footprint. And he also made some suggestions as to how industries should build it into their strategic process, where compliance is not a cost, but it is profit. The pathway, I think, beautifully explained by Mohan, Dr. Mohan, is move from zero emissions. We have to move towards zero emissions by redesigning processes. One of the things that we have seen in today's presentation by Mr. Jonathan and friends in Canada on how their systems can improve and bring us closer to zero emissions by using particulate filter systems, oxidation catalysts, emissions from diesel generators. Dr. Mohan also talked about targets that industries are setting, other countries are setting on zero carbon footprint. Carbon emitted is captured, pathways for eliminating fossil fuels and moving towards a low carbon economy. We've also seen some of the in his presentation he talked about using greenhouse gases like methane, initially CO2, and then methane, and then also HFCs. I was actually fortunate to be part of 2 carbon reduction projects, my earlier assignments, where we captured HFC 23 and eliminated huge 11,900 tons of CO2 per ton of HFC 23. A lot of Indian companies have done it. As India has been a forefront in carbon emission reduction projects in the past 10 to 15 years. We've also been very good in waste heat recovery. Our company has been, particularly chemicals, has been very good in looking at waste heat recovery wherever we are, and was a process where we use a lot of waste heat into our system, in use it for heating, using it for various applications within our plant. A lot of other companies have done that, and to summarize, I think it's a very excellent seminar today by all the speakers. They were very good quality of presentations. Always, Dr. Mohan has been fantastic in explaining things. As a professor, I think you can expect that him. Christo has done a fantastic job on coordinating the question answer sessions and introducing everybody. In a day, I think what is important is, I think finally I should sum up by saying we need a 3C approach. We need compliance, we need collaboration, we need cooperation between industry, stakeholders, government, and policymakers. Only then we will reach the goal of zero emissions. As a chemical industry, we should be a torch bearer in this mission. With this, I conclude my remarks, and I hope we had a fantastic day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We hope the chemical industry will take into account the insights you have given. And we have come to the conclusion. Thank you, panelists, for giving us your precious time to make this event a remarkable event. And I thank all the participants on behalf of panelists, guidance, and the HECS. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night. Thank you,
Have a good day.
Professor. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
And ma'am, and Jonathan,
Thank you.
and Satish, and all the participants. Thank you.
Thank you for including me.
Yeah. Okay. Bye. Yeah. Thanks.
Good night, everybody.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you.